Hello and happy Thursday. It's time to get cooking. That's right, it's Thursdays with Annette and I have my oven preheated at 180 degrees ready to go. So we're delving into book 4 today and it's going to be a great recipe. It's a classic. Who doesn't love a tasty meatloaf? And it's so yum and so good for you. And in a way, it's great because with the family, because you're grating the vegetables, a lot of it, so they don't even know. But the good news is it's also in this book, the new one, More Cooking for One or Two. So you can either make the big loaf, which I'm going to make today for you, that serves 6, or you can make it out of this book and it serves 3. Normally I try and do it that it serves 2 or 1 in this book, but I couldn't work it out to get any lower than the 3. But still, that's okay because who doesn't love a bit of leftover meatloaf? It's fantastic. All right, so now remember I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees. Now the things you've got to do to get started with is you have to actually cook your rice first. Now I'm using brown rice here, or brown rice, or is that the only name for it, Bill? Just brown rice? It's not raw? No. Brown rice, and it's 1/3 cup raw. And then you follow the instructions on the packet and this is what you'll land up with. And I like to get it dry, so I lay it out onto a plate or a tray and let it dry out a bit because that will be better for the recipe. So you have to have the rice cooked first. Then we're going to do, we put bread in this. It's a really economical recipe because you know you're using 500 grams of beef mince, but to bulk it up, we're doing vegetables. And one of the tricks I do here is I add bread as well. And this is something the great-grandmothers would do to stretch a meal. They would put bread into a stew to make it go further. And I'm using the Tip Top 9 grain. It says to use multi-grain bread. I'm using the Tip Top. You want 3 slices, and you also want 1/2 cup of, 1/3 cup, I'm sorry, of skim milk to go in there, and we mush it up a bit. So that's what we'll do next. We've also got carrot, zucchini and red capsicum because I love all the different colours. We want a small onion, and as I said before, there's my 500 grams of very lean beef mince. Now you can actually change it if you wish. I mean, sometimes it's nice to be able to make a recipe over and over, and you really change it up when you change the protein. So instead of it being beef mince, you could do chicken mince or pork mince. It's really good. We're going to put some oyster sauce in, and this will really pick up the flavours because I find some meatloaves are very bland and they just focus on the meat and a bit of onion in it. So this is my favourite type of meatloaf. We're going to put 2 egg whites in. I've got some mixed herbs here, some beef stock powder, and I'm going to put in a sachet of cream of mushroom cuppa soup. And this is all about building flavour because when you go low fat, you really need to make sure you're still eating it and going, this is fabulous. A bit of pepper, cooking spray. I think we're good. As I said, the oven's 180 degrees. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to just prep up my bread. And I still include the crusts. So all you're doing is, it's like as if you're doing a stuffing in a way. I just want to break it up so that it can mix in really well to the mix. And we're going to grate the carrot and the zucchini because it's all got to be a little bit fine. Because if you make the onion, for example, or the capsicum really chunky, then it can break up the meatloaf when you're cutting it. So you want fine, just small, fine dice would be the way to go. And the great thing is with this recipe, as I said, if you have leftovers, it freezes really well and it can freeze for quite a while. So you could always cut it into serves, and what a great thing to take for lunch. I mean, meatloaf sandwich, yum. You can do it with salad, you can do it with vegetables and gravy. It's such a versatile dish. But it really is, not expensive. And sometimes we need that. Sometimes the week's budget doesn't go too far. You can't afford too many expensive things on the grocery list. And so meatloaf is always a good one to go to. All right, so 3 slices. Patiently breaking it up. Thanks for joining me today. I love cooking for you each Thursday and I love your feedback, so don't hesitate to chat to me in the comments below because it makes my day. I love it when I hear people chatting to me there. All right, here we go. Now we're going to pour the milk over the bread and we're going to just mix it up. I want that milk to just soak in and soften the bread. So I'm just going to leave that now to the side. Let me just wash my hands. All right, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to grate up and then cook up the veggies, or prepare the vegetables is the right word, Annette. So we want half a cup of red capsicum and finely diced. We only want, and I always take that pith out. I call it pith. Is that the right word for it, Bill? The white stuff? All right, cut it into strips, not too thick. And then just come in and quite close. This is where having a sharp knife is really going to help you with this recipe. And unfortunately, the NeoFlam knives have been out of stock for quite some time, and it's very much the story we're hearing a lot now with certain products coming in from overseas. We just can't get them in. So unfortunately, they've predicted they'll be back on the shelves on my website next year. All right, so we're slicing it and then we're dicing it. Now, the good news is that it's low in fat and fabulous, because meatloaf can, people often use very fatty mince, whereas we're using the premium mince because we want quality, because you're worth it. Let me have a look here. I want half a cup. That looks pretty good. Let's see. No, we can do a little bit more. We don't want to miss out. I reckon that will do it. And this is one that maybe you can get the kids helping you with, because who doesn't love to get in and mush up and mush up all the ingredients, because that's what you do with this recipe. There we go. I'm going to just put it straight into the bowl. This is what we're going to do with this recipe. All right. Now I'm going to do the onion, and we want fine diced, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in. I might use the bigger knife for this. Let's move that out of the way. I'm going to go in and then go here and cut really quite close. And that way your dice will be much smaller, which is what you want. You do not want a big chunk of onion in it. See, and I'm going to go very fine. And you could be doing all the knife work, and the kids can be doing the grating, and then they can do all the mixing. It's nice to get the family in the kitchen with you. All right, I'm not going to bother with that because I think that's enough onion. It says, a small onion, and I think that's just perfect. So it's going in. There we go. All right, now we're going to grate. So let's do the carrot, half a cup. See, this is where it would be good if you did have kids, because I reckon this is the hardest part, is getting in and grating things. If you've got a food processor, you might want to do it that way because it's easier, but you only need half a cup of each, so I can't be bothered with all that washing up. There we go. Half a cup of carrot. Now, if you wanted to make it the normal way, the fat count for the beef is 5.7. So it works very well. And don't be too generous. Go to where it says, because if there's too much wet ingredients there, it won't hold together very well. So don't be, too zealous with, oh, look, I'll just use up the rest of that carrot. No, do what the recipe says. Okay, zucchinis are always much easier, aren't they, to grate? Now, if you wanted to make it with the chicken, so you'd buy the very, very lean chicken mince at 6.5 grams of fat, and the very lean pork mince is only 3.5. How are we going there? Half a cup. That looks terrific. All right. Now I can move all this away because now it's all about mixing. Whee. I'm going to actually put gloves on because, you know, I'm a bit of a princess and I don't like getting it under my nails and in my jewellery, and I just find it's just easier this way. So let's put, where's this gloves? Wait a minute. All right, so when you put your vegetables in, what I do is I give it a mix up. My hands are wet, so that's not helping, is it? I give it a mix up so the vegetables combine. Look at the pretty colours. There we go. Now we put everything in. So I'm going to put in the rice. And it says to just put it all in and mix it, but I actually am going to just do it as we go. So that way it's just easier to combine it. Let's check out this bread. Oh yes, it's nice and mushy. Look at that. It goes in. As I said, just give everything a bit of a moment in the bowl. We're going to put in the mince. Now that was 500 grams of lean beef mince. Break that up. Let's put in 2 egg whites. This will help bind it all up. And as you can see, this is not a hard recipe to make. And homemade meatloaf, whoever said that it's too old-fashioned? No, go away. I love it. Some old recipes are worth keeping, and I think a meatloaf is, especially when you're on a budget. Okay, now we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, and this really does help with the flavours. All these things that really you wouldn't expect maybe to see in a meatloaf, but this is my recipe. I'm allowed to put in it what I want, hello? And there's reasons for everything in one of my recipes. It's not just because I thought, let's just use oyster sauce. It's because I want banging flavours, people, here. Yes. All right. There's the oyster sauce. We've got a sachet of the cream of mushroom soup. So you just put it all in. If you don't like mushrooms, then you could replace it with either a cup of soup that's vegetables or chicken. I mean, I know we're using beef, so that would be the ideal thing to go with it, but, you know, just swap it over. 2 teaspoons of the beef stock powder, half a teaspoon of mixed herbs, which is kind of a bit of a tradition in a meatloaf, I think. There we go. You don't need a lot because it's quite strong. And just some cracked pepper. There we go. Look at that. Now the fun comes because we're going to get in and give it a good mix. Here we go. Yum. I love it. Squishing around. Combining all that ingredients. Get that meat in really well. I just squish it. Is there another word for it? No. Squish. Process, blend, combine, or squish. There we are. Take your time doing it. Give it a good mix up. I put it on the towel because that way it sort of doesn't make a noise banging around on my stone bench. Oh, this is looking, there's they're fabulous. Oh, yes. All right. Now, I want to talk to you before I put it into the tray or the tin. I want you to see the difference, okay? Because I've got really old tins, but I love them, and I know I should get really nice, fabulous new ones, but I just love them. I've had them for years. I wonder how many of you are the same. So there's 2 Loaf tins. I think I got this as a wedding present, and we've been married like 48 years now. So there you go. So you can see they're small, like they actually fit in. And I do love this one because it's got the precise corners to it, more so than the round. But they're small Loaf tins. This is what we're using, is a large tin. And if I measured it, I would measure it from the base. And it is, let me look here, just so you've got an idea. It's about 21 centimetres by 10.5, whereas this one is 8 by 19. So I just wanted to make sure you've got the right size to use, because it makes a big meatloaf. In the more cooking you're going to use a smaller tin. Let me just spray. And in goes the filling. So you just, in it goes, and then I'm going to press it down so that it's nice and even. And the colours are just terrific because you've got the green, the orange, the red, the onion, and then the meat. So as you can see, it fills up your loaf tin. As I said, take some time with this, push it down, even it out, press it down so it's nice and firm. There we go. Yum. Take my gloves off. The loaf is done. Now I'm going to put that in the 180 degrees fan force oven, and it's going to take about 60 minutes. It's a lot of meat to cook. I'm going to do 55 because you might remember I tell you my oven's a bit fast. I have 2 ovens. This one's even faster, but I love how they both open out, and I tell you, 2 ovens is just awesome. Now let me read to you the tip that the dietitian wrote on the tasty meatloaf. Lisa Cochran, who says, adding rice, bread and vegetables to a meatloaf provides fibre and decreases the amount of meat in the recipe. This will decrease the total kilojoules intake, making it suitable for overweight people with diabetes. See? And if you've got that in slices in the freezer, you can, as I said, you can have it with salad, you can have it with vegetables, you can even bung it in a sanger. I mean, how good is that? Now let me just check the more cooking because I want to see what tin I say to use with that because I can't remember. Look at all these great recipes. Here we are. It says a small loaf tin. So therefore you would then go to one of these if you're making it just for 3. Alrighty? Well, okay, well I'm going to clean up my mess. We've got to wait a little bit for that to cook, but I want to show it off. So let's wait. I'll come back in a little while and we can see the finished product. Alrighty, let's check out our cooked meatloaf. Oh, it looks great. I landed up cooking it for an extra 5 minutes. So when I touched it, it just felt too soft. So I think that's the whole thing, is you want to make sure it's cooked through. And one of the ways you can test it, let me show you, is you put your knife in, hold it in for a few seconds, pull it out. Oh, see, that's really hot. So that means it's cooked. If it's only lukewarm or cold, then you know it still needs cooking. All right, so let's go around the edges. Normally I would kind of leave it sitting in the tin for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but I kind of want to show you it cooked, so I hope it won't make a mess. Let me get it. Now, this is enough for 6, so you would go there and there and there. I mean, I would cut it into 12 so that each person gets 2 slices. I think this is going to work. Let's see. I'm going to put it on like that. And I'll turn it. Oop, it flipped. And yay! Oh, there's a little bit still left in there. That's all right. If you'd left it sit for longer, because Miss Impatient Annette here wasn't going to do that. Let's just glue that in there. Look, perfect. All right, so there is our meatloaf. Now, what I also would do is I like the other side better. So I would tend to put it on a rack and then turn it over. And I'm going to do that now because I have to. Okay, hold on. I did actually say to Bill, let's put it on a rack. He said, you don't put a meatloaf on a rack. See, I should have listened to myself because look, there we go. Oh, look at the beautiful juices in that are coming out. So I would rather let it sit there like that. I would normally sit it in for about 5 or 10 minutes. Make sure you cut around the edges, okay? And then when you tip it out, let it just sit and, you know, you don't want it really hot, okay? And then once it's sort of settled a bit, then you'll put it onto your plate. Alrighty? Well, there it is. There is the fabulous, no boring, tasty meatloaf out of book 4. And also you can make enough for 3 in a smaller loaf in the More Cooking for 1 or 2. So if you want to win one of the books, hello, all you have to do is like, share, and then in the comments you're going to do a hashtag Symply with a Y, because hello, what's my last name? Too Good. Simply Too Good, right in there, and I will randomly pick, I do very randomly pick 3 lucky winners who get a personal signed copy, and you can choose between book 4 or the More Cooking for 1 or 2. Got a feeling the More Cooking might be a bit popular because it's so new. And I make the announcements of who wins each week in the comment feeds in the Simply Too Good page. Now, if you want any more tips or recipes, you can go to simplytoogood.com.au. I mean, who knew weight loss could be so deliciously healthy and an old favourite brought back to life. I've also got a, what's the other Mexican, is it a Mexican meatloaf? Yes. In the Cooking 1 or 2, I've got a Mexican meatloaf in there, which is a bit fabulous. You can make it, remember, with beef, chicken or pork. Yes, we're done for another Thursday. I'll see you next time. Bye now.